Welcome in, you guys, to today's One Piece discussion, and today we're talking about black blades in One Piece and how they are going to be forged in the future. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, one, because I have a really cool Reddit thread that I want to share with you guys, and two, because in Volume 2 of The Road to Laugh Tale, Oda gave us this. It is a small panel and it says, "Can any sword become a black blade?" Many questions still remain unanswered when it comes to blades like Yoru and Shisui. Is Haki alone really enough? I love the way he words the final part, because by saying, "Is Haki alone really enough?" Oda in a way is telling us that Haki is not enough, that there is more to forging a black blade than just being a strong swordsman and a strong character. Which brings us to today's Reddit thread, brought to us by a user by the name of Average ZKK Enjoyer. I love the username. It says, "Note, this is not a new theory I made, but I wanted to make a detailed post about this theory as I liked it. Let us go to the very beginning of Wano, when we first learned black blades need to be forged by the user." And it has Zoro fighting Onimaru, and he says, "Then it seems I've overestimated you. Shisui is a black blade. It was forged through Ryuma's history of battle. So I ask you, are you but some greedy boy with little thought aside from your own base desires? You said forged. I was wondering about that." So it seems like Zoro has been trying to bring out a black blade, but he has been unsuccessful in the past, or he has at least thought about how to bring out a black blade other than Haki. Do you mean its black color came from, and then obviously he got cut off because Oda wanted to tease how black blades are truly made? Now, by this one panel, one might assume that one can forge black blades by fighting with it more and more, using strong armament or maybe even Conqueror's Haki. But we have characters like Roger and Shanks who don't have any devil fruit and heavily rely on their swords and have ridiculously strong Conqueror's Haki, but were still not able to forge their blades black. Mihawk states that any sword can be turned black, so it's not about the quality of the sword either. And then he shows a reference to Mihawk saying, "A blade with even the slightest damage is a shame for the swordsman. Remember this, every sword can be turned into the black sword. Before you can completely master this technique, no alcohol is allowed for you." So we can assume Zoro is probably sober. The man has not drank in so long. With this, we can conclude that there is some other requirements to forge a black blade. This is kind of reminiscent to Naruto, where Sasuke had to kill his best friend to unlock the Mangekyo Sharingan. I'm not saying Zoro has to do the exact same thing, but what I'm saying is that there's deeper meaning to having a black sword than just raw strength. And then this guy brings up that every sword has its own unique will. In Wano, we had a huge focus on swords. Each blade is like a unique personality, and a swordsman is the one who bends it to their will. And then we see the exact same reference here. A sword has its own personality. A swordsman must master it and bend it to his will. I love that. It was like word for word. A sword is said to inherit the will of their previous owner. And he also shows a reference here. In battle, when your companion dies before your eyes, you take his sword and continue onward. The soul that resides in a katana makes a samurai strong and enables him to destroy his enemies. The footnotes at the bottom right implies that by taking the sword, Zoro has inherited Odin's will through Enma. And then we see it right here as well. "Sir Zoro, if your sword is truly Shisui, then please give it back to this country. I will give you a suitable replacement. It is my late father's beloved blade which was given to me, the infamous blade Enma." I love this scene because Zoro's instant hate of losing Shisui turned into instant relief when he received an even better blade, or a blade that's on the exact same level. It is a legendary blade that managed to give Kaido his one and only scar. Kaido senses Odin's presence at Enma. In some translations, presence was translated as will. And yes, we did see that in the anime of One Piece, depending on which dub you're listening to as well. How does this katana bear the presence of Odin within it? And then Big Mom's like, we've underestimated them. We had to dodge that attack. We could not take Zoro's attack during this rooftop battle. So all in all, his theory comes down to a sword turns black when its will has been fulfilled by its user. Now let's go through each sword one by one. The Wado Ichimonji. Wado inherited Kuina's will of becoming the strongest sword. Oh, that would be really cool. Like Zoro beats Mihawk and then all of a sudden his sword turns black, or like during the battle the sword turns black. I think that'd be a really dope panel. By taking the sword, Zoro inherited Kuina's will through Wado, and it can be turned black by becoming the strongest swordsman, thus fulfilling the sword's will, which I'm not going to read this one. You guys know Zoro's backstory. Wado might turn black during the end of the Mihawk fight, at the moment he surpasses Mihawk. This is also a good timing, as many believe Wado Ichimonji would be the last to turn black, as it is Zoro's most important sword. Next up, we have Sandai Kitetsu. Not much is known about the history or will of this sword other than it being a cursed sword, but Oda seems like he is planning something in the future about this Kitetsu lineup, as he introduced Nidai Kitetsu in Wano, and he also introduced the first Kitetsu as well, which we don't know who owns that sword, but also in the Road to Laugh Tale volume book, Oda listed the first Kitetsu as a supreme blade as well. So I feel like we might run into that sword in the near future, and it would make a lot of sense if the first Kitetsu fell into the hands of Zoro, especially since he wielded the Sandai Kitetsu and the Nidai Kitetsu. And now last but not least, we have Enma. Enma inherited Odin's will. Odin's will is to liberate Wano from Kaido and to open Wano's borders, which half of that has already happened. Kaido is already defeated. His reign of terror on Wano Kuni is over. All that's left to do to fulfill Odin's will is to open the borders of Wano, which Momonosuke mentioned that he will not do just yet. Which now seems a little bit curious, right? Because beforehand, and even still, Momonosuke's entire rhetoric of not wanting to open Wano's borders just yet falls in line because Wano has been through so much, so to make a hasty decision like that wouldn't be smart. Even the Gorosei mentioned that Wano Kuni has a very smart leader to not want to open its borders right now. But there could be a double meaning from Oda, a small side goal that he was able to accomplish by having Momonosuke not open the borders yet, and that is to hold Zoro back until he is truly ready to obtain the Black Blade. Like maybe when we least expect it, once Momonosuke opens the borders of Wano, Zoro's blade, Enma, will become truly black. And that would be pretty cool, right? Because it says that Momonosuke will be the greatest shogun to ever go down in history. And we know that Momonosuke is backing up the Straw Hats. If the Straw Hats were to go to war, I am expecting the citizens and samurai of Wano Kuni to show up behind them. Thus, once they leave Wano, they will have to open its borders. So imagine Luffy and Zoro and the rest of the Straw Hats are in a grand battle. And then all of a sudden, the Straw Hats are looking pretty meek. They may be losing some fights. And then with Momonosuke showing up with the samurai and the scabbards in tow and declaring that Wano has opened its borders, Zoro will get that last minute power up and have Enma turn into a truly black blade. That's a little bit of headcanon, but that's just showing you guys what this could imply for the future of One Piece and future Zoro fights. What exactly needs to be done to fulfill Enma's will is difficult to say. There are many possible cases. For example, beheading Kaido might turn it black, but hey, who knows? It is beyond the scope of this theory. Enma has had a huge focus throughout Wano, so I think it's highly likely that Enma will turn black in Wano arc itself, as all other plotlines associated with Enma will end after Wano. So get ready, boys. We might be witnessing a Black Blade soon. And here's the thing too, it could happen. Green Bull is in Wano, and people are speculating that if he does show up at the festival, Zoro might be the one to help take him on. So imagine Zoro whips out Enma, and then boom, all of a sudden it is a Black Blade, solely because they took down Kaido. And you know, the possibilities for Zoro and Black Blades are truly endless, but we are entering the final saga of One Piece. So it has to happen sooner rather than later, especially since Zoro has to get all 3 of his blades to become black. The average ZKK enjoyer finishes off his thread by saying, TLDR, every sword has its own unique will. A sword turns black when its will has been fulfilled by its user, which I really love. I love this theory a lot. And the reason why is because to get a black blade, the method is not cut and dry. There is no specific roadmap for every single person to get a black blade. Every journey and every sword is different. And it really tests to see how compatible you are with each sword. So not every bozo can just get a black blade because they do X, Y, and Z. They have to go through the will of the sword. They have to be compatible with it and the previous owner and the swordsmith as a whole. They have to have that journey with the sword to unlock it. It makes each black blade feel significant. It's not just, oh, big guy, big strong muscle, black blade. That's not the case, and I really enjoy that. And now, time to look at some comments and see what people are thinking about this theory. The top comment says, excellent take. Maybe Sandai Katetsu's will is to overtake its brothers. If the Gorosei swordsman really does have the strongest Katetsu blade, then it would set up a good late game power up for Zoro. Though, based on the reputation of the Katetsu blades, it may be as simple as killing a lot of people. God, that would be really dark. I mentioned, what was it, like the Naruto reference with Sasuke having to kill his best friend? Yeah, Zoro just has to slay like 1,000 people and boom, black blade. That would be a ridiculous condition, but hilarious nonetheless. Backup username goes on and comments, I really do love this theory, especially because it's very One Piece, which I do agree with. This does seem like a theory that has some plausibility to it. It does have precedence, and also Oda did mention that Haki alone might not be enough to unlock a black blade. It does have a lot of things backing it. In that, getting this confirmed would answer one question and simultaneously give me more. What was Yoru's will that Mihawk fulfilled? What do Ace and Griffin want that the respective masters were unable to grant them? Actually, come to think of it, where even is Ace now? Considering the effect Roger had on the world, I'm sure the world government would have wanted the Pirate King's sword for their own purposes, maybe even just to destroy it. But Roger wasn't captured, he turned himself in. I'm sure he didn't just show up with a sword at his hip to be confiscated. He loved that thing so much he named his only son after it. So where did he leave it that it would be safe? Couldn't have been Garp, because that conversation about him taking care of the son of Roger occurred while Roger was in prison. Obviously post-capture, maybe he left it with Rayleigh or another trusted crewmate, which I want to go with Rayleigh since he is the Dark King, since he was the vice captain. But if it isn't Rayleigh, I want to take a fat guess and say it might have been Scopper Gavin, who is one of the Roger crewmates we know nothing about present day. But yes, I do agree. Ever since Oda came out with the Road to Laugh Tale and he said that Ace is a Supreme Blade, I'm like, bro, like who is going to pick up the mantle? Maybe if Ace himself was still alive, I could see him picking that sword up. But now that Ace isn't here, who's gonna come up and pick up Roger's mantle? Next up, we have Spiritual Scumlord with a very different opinion. He says, real talk, I take the Mihawk speech exactly the opposite from you. Mihawk to me seems to be stating that Armin Haki is the foundational principle of making a black blade, because everything he says to Zoro in that panel is about Armin Haki. I think that each blade does have a will though. If not just to cut people or something, I'm sure they're both a piece of the puzzle. Something that stood out to me was Shiryu in Impel Down. When he cut the guards, I believe he said sorry. My blade was thirsty. I wrote a whole theory on black blades and ish, but I forgot to finish it and post it, lol. So, my thoughts on this is that I do agree. In that panel with Mihawk, all he was talking about was not getting your blade damaged, not getting your blade chipped. And that pretty much just refers to Armin Haki. And I do agree, it is a big piece of the puzzle. Not just any bozo could come around and fulfill a will and instantly get a black blade. You have to be strong to some extent. I know I kind of said the opposite earlier, but I do want to make that known that you do have to be strong, but it isn't strength alone that crafts a Black Blade. And back to that Mihawk panel that he was talking about, yes, while Mihawk was only referring to Artemis Haki, you have to remember that at some point, you, as the sword wielder, must be able to implant your will into the sword. And a good way to think about this is bringing up the question of how did Odin implant his will into Enma in the first place? It's kind of like, how did Kuina implant her will of becoming the world's greatest swordsman, and etc. Somebody has to start that will. And maybe there's a point where you can overtake someone's previous will and implant that into the sword. Now I'm kind of like reaching, I said I don't like theories that reach super far, but that would be my take on it, is that eventually your will would overtake that sword, and at one point, maybe the next wielder of Wado Ichimonji or Enma or the Sandai Nidai Katetsu will have Zoro's will in those swords. It won't always just be Odin's will. Eventually, Zoro's will shine through. It is that extreme desire. And Zoro's desire might also just be to craft a Black Blade, or to become the world's greatest swordsman, or to even simply just wanting to help his Nakama out. All in all, I really like this guy's comment, and the reason why is because One Piece theories are inherently made to be debated. There has to be holes poked in each theory, or else it wouldn't be a theory. And like I said, we're all just people gathering around and talking about things that might or might not happen. I'm not dying on the hill of wills being the end-all be-all for crafting a Black Blade, but I do really enjoy the theory, and I can see some validation in it as well. This guy says, I'm imagining in a panel where Zoro is getting ready to land one final hit on Mihawk, then right before he does, Wado Ichimonji turns black. Cool, just thinking about it. I would love that. I really want a Kuina throwback while Zoro is fighting Mihawk. Like, maybe during the final blow, he can like have a little flashback of Kuina, or he sees Kuina like side by side with him. I don't know. I feel like we need more of her, right? Like, Stair D Case cannot be the last time we saw Kuina. Wise Excalibur says, not a bad theory. It could be true. Odin's dream was to open Wano's borders, so I suspect that it will fulfill his will. That said, I personally think turning a Black Blade involves death. Mihawk sails around in a coffin and is depicted as a sort of Dracula-like character. While I don't believe Mihawk is undead, I do believe he has died before. Perhaps he somehow managed to escape death by cutting the Grim Reaper. Something like that could turn a sword black, I suspect. Even if that isn't the case, maybe dying and coming back has something to do with obtaining eyes like Mihawk and Imu. But I want to throw a kibosh on the eyes part right here. There are more characters that have eyes like Mihawk and Imu. A good case being Luffy. Luffy in Gear 5th. Whoa, wait, Luffy died and came back. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, Luffy actually died, and then he awakened, and then in Gear 5th, he had the eyes like Imu and Mihawk. But then again, okay, bring it back up. There are other characters in this series that also have the same eyes. Another character being Caribou, another character that is currently present in the land of Wano. And another character to keep in mind as well is Hakuba, which is the alternate personality of Cavendish. So maybe those characters died and came back. I don't know. That's kind of reaching, but I think this guy might be onto something with the eye segment. Brook has already confirmed that an afterlife exists in One Piece and that the land of the dead is a real place. And below that, Adam goes on and says, I was thinking the same thing, like Black Blades are forged by the Grim Reaper in some way, but I do like the OP's theory. This could give a lot of context and meaning behind why Zoro saw the Grim Reaper after beating King. I feel like this has to come back at some point. Oda cannot forget the Grim Reaper and just not bring him up ever again. And also, in the latest chapter of One Piece, when Zoro was fighting fighting Sanji, Zoro did say, hey, I came back from the underworld just to kick your butt. So maybe there is a deep Grim Reaper, land of the undead meaning behind Black Blades as a whole. The sword will turn black when its user overcomes the racism in their heart. Zoro would be doomed. How fitting. Mihawk ends up being Zoro's first non-minority opponent. Oh, dude, that's too good. That's too freaking good. I wonder if there'll be another big event for Zoro that will turn Enma into a Black Blade, or he just wakes up and it's black. I feel like there has to be a big event, and that's why earlier on I brought up the whole scenario of Momonosuke and the Samurai of Wano showing up to assist the Straw Hats and helping Zoro get back on his feet and turning Enma into that Black Blade because the borders have opened at that time period. I think it's pretty obvious a blade turns black due to ornament haki. What exactly is the requirement for it to stay permanently black? I don't know, but so far everything points towards it. 1. Post time skip, Oda often visualizes ornament haki as black. 2. Zoro is said to specialize in ornament haki, yet we are yet to see this specialization pay off. 3. When Zoro cut Pika down, we got a small Mihawk flashback in which he said every blade can turn black if Zoro mastered how to coat them with ornament haki. He didn't say this final part here, but I do agree with most of this right here. But also, like, I gotta throw it back to that volume 2 of The Road to Laugh Tale. Oda's almost hinting at us that ornament haki might not be enough to unlock a Black Blade. Those were like essentially Oda's words himself. And maybe Oda's just wording it really strangely and very cryptidly, but it does seem to me that he's teasing that there's more to a Black Blade than meets the eye. Granted, this post was made 2 months ago, so I can't blame anybody for not knowing about that tidbit of information, but looking back at it from a future perspective, we know that there's something deeper here. One last comment and then we'll end off this video. And this guy just says, painted black for style points. Okay, that's not the comment we're going to end on. This one right here. I think it said somewhere that a blade's quality is based on its ability to kill. And swords of high quality can be considered cursed when wielded by inferior swordsmen because their owners end up dying since they cannot control their sword. So I think a blade turns black under 2 conditions. Firstly, it has to be crafted by an experienced swordsmith and of significant quality. Second, it needs to be wielded by someone who can utilize its full potential, i.e. satisfying its thirst to kill. I agree with the second part, that it has to be wielded by someone who can utilize its full potential. Maybe not always like satisfying the thirst to kill, because not all blades are cursed, and Mihawk did say that all blades can turn black, so it kind of negs a part of this, but it definitely negs the first part that it says it has to be crafted by an experienced swordsmith and of sufficient quality. Mihawk himself, like, I hate referencing one single panel, but he did say that any blade can be black. But all in all, I do agree that maybe some swords do just have to kill a bunch of people. If we want to bring it back to the whole will aspect of it, and Odin's will and Kuina's will and etc., then there has to be some swords whose only will is to kill people, thus why they are cursed blades. But yeah, tell me what you guys think about these theories. I actually really enjoyed this One Piece, Black Blade theory here, and all credits do go to the original poster. The link will be down below as well. I just wanted to bring this theory to you guys because I thought it was super freaking dope. But if you guys have any ideas as to how you can craft a Black Blade, let me know down below, and let me know what you think about this theory as well. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching up until this point. I just wanted to make a random Reddit thread discussion because we are in the One Piece drought week. We have 2 more weeks until we get the slightest bit of spoilers for chapter 1054. So I'm just looking for cool theories to talk about, and if you guys have any suggestions, please link it down below. Or if you want to take it a step further, please consider joining my Discord server down below. I will link that down there, and just @ me, tag me, message me, friend request me, do whatever you want. I also have a second channel where I live stream on Twitch, so feel free to check that out. And I also have a YouTube channel where I do nothing but gaming. So if you want to follow me on any of those platforms, I would super appreciate it. And please consider leaving a like and comment. I read every single comment, and I try to respond to some of them as well. And yeah, you guys are freaking awesome. Thank you so much again, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace out.